Russian political scientist Arkady Dubnov confirmed that Deputy Chief of Staff of the Presidential Administration Dmitry Kozak is leaving the Kremlin. Echo reports. According to sources in Moscow, the decision was made voluntarily, although he had previously been offered the position of Presidential Plenipotentiary Envoy to the Northwestern Federal District. Kozak has been considered one of Vladimir Putin's closest allies since the early 1990s, when they worked together in the St. Petersburg mayor's office. From 2008 to 2020, he served as Deputy Prime Minister, then moved to the Presidential Administration, where he oversaw the post-Soviet space. On February the 21st, 2022, 3 days before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Kozak openly opposed the military option at a meeting of the Russian Security Council. His 40-minute speech, in which he warned of the catastrophic consequences of war, was not included in the official transcript or televised version of the meeting. After the aggression began, he attempted to establish negotiations with Kiev, but they collapsed under pressure from the Kremlin. Despite formal access to Putin, Kozak has gradually lost influence in recent years. His initiatives to reform the judicial system and other areas of government were rejected. In 2024, control over the post-Soviet direction finally passed to Sergei Kuryenko, effectively stripping Kozak of his powers. According to sources close to the politician, he was deeply affected by his own involvement in the war and, seeing no way to change the situation from within, decided to leave government service. Experts note that, in fact, the inter-clan war in the Kremlin is intensifying and repressions against opponents of the war are beginning. This is also an indicator of a moral crisis in the Russian elite. Moral degradation has engulfed not just the so-called elites in Russia, but the broader public as well. The majority of the country's population supports the barbaric aggression against Ukraine, and these same people wonder why Putin hasn't wiped Ukraine off the face of the earth yet. The war has divided Russian society. Parents, poisoned by propaganda, call their children traitors for refusing to support aggression against a neighboring country. Russia's most successful and educated residents, scientists, entrepreneurs, and developers are leaving en masse. Those who oppose the war, who can't or don't want to leave, are paralyzed by fear, suspicion, and apathy.
Security forces in St. Petersburg have dismantled a Ukrainian intelligence network that was plotting a terrorist attack against the head of a defense company. This was reported by the FSB's Public Relations Center. According to the agency, 2 women who were following the head of the enterprise, as well as a 19-year-old young man who attached a bomb to the victim's car, have been detained. Upon arrest, the 31-year-old groomer and 32-year-old fashion designer admitted to contacting the Ukrainian recruiter via telegram. For several days, the women followed the defense industry executive's car on bicycles with attached cameras, recording his every move. They subsequently hid a bomb in a charger box in a cemetery. A 19-year-old unemployed man took an explosive device from a hiding place and attached it to the intended victim's car. To retrieve the bomb, he disguised himself as an elderly woman. When he was arrested, he was wearing a skirt, jacket, and headscarf. The attackers planned to remotely activate the bomb and flee the country. Previously, the FSB detained a resident of the Volgograd region in Crimea. On orders from Ukrainian intelligence, she planned to blow up security forces with a bomb embedded in an Orthodox icon. The Russian woman wanted to recoup money stolen by telephone scammers. She had been tricked into joining a terrorist group.
тачкой, вы поедете? Да, он на тачку, все, он уже по ходу отходит. Отходит, он идет туда, к длинному дому.
Встаем. Встаем. Куда это? Слушай.
В июле 2025 года вступил в ряды террористической организации, в составе которой подготовил диверсионно-террористический акт в отношении главы российского оборонного предприятия.
В июне 2025 года добровольно вступила в террористическую организацию. По заданию данной организации выполняла разведку для подготовки террористического акта по отношению руководителя российского оборонного предприятия.
В июне 2025 года добровольно вступила в ряды террористической организации, по заданию членов которого совершала разведывательную деятельность с целью проведения террористического акта против главы оборонного предприятия Российской Федерации.
Ukraine has already managed to thwart 2 offensive operations by the Russian army, but Russia is preparing for 2 more offensive operations in the autumn. This was stated by President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky in an interview with Sky News. In my opinion, we acted very timely. We thwarted 2 operations, completely thwarted 2 offensive operations. The third, I think, honestly, in a day or 2 we will understand that they suffered heavy losses, and nothing worked out for them, but I need 1 or 2 days to say this publicly. They are preparing for 2 more offensive operations in the autumn. I believe that things went much worse for the Russians than they expected. They are doing much worse than they reported to Putin. Putin doesn't know about this. I think he doesn't realize it, but he has schedules, he has reports, and at some point he will see it, said Zelensky. According to him, the mood in Europe and the US is indeed changing a little. Overall, I am glad, truly glad, that all of Russia's advances, all of their offensive missions, there have been 3, and they are planning 2 more heavy offensive campaigns. Their last 3 missions have failed. In my view, this is a very important signal. Firstly, what I told the Europeans and the White House, that the Russians would not succeed in taking our east, and that what they are telling you, that they can occupy the city of Sumy, all of this is lies and manipulation, and we would prove it. And that is exactly what happened. The Russians lost 3 campaigns, he told. Zelensky added that the Russians had suffered heavy losses in manpower and equipment and are now under great strain. Meanwhile, he noted that Ukrainian forces should be supported with weapons and financial assistance that goes into weapons production, and then Ukraine will be able to withstand 2 more Russian offensive campaigns. Recall, British intelligence, analysts from the Institute for the Study of War and the authoritative publication Bloomberg almost unanimously state that Russia is carrying out a large-scale regrouping of its forces, redeploying up to 100,000 troops to the Donetsk front. The troops are being withdrawn from the Kharkiv, Sumy and even Kherson regions in order to concentrate the striking force to successfully achieve the seizure of the entirety of the Donetsk region. The discourse is focused on the forces referred to by Russian propagandists as elite. These are the units of the 40th and 155th Marine Brigades, the 177th Marine Regiment of the Caspian Flotilla, units of the 11th and 76th Airborne Assault Brigades, as well as the 70th Motorized Rifle Regiment. Some analysts predict that such a concentration of forces points to Russia's intention to focus its autumn offensive on capturing the still unoccupied part of the Donetsk region, in particular the areas of Dobropilya, Pokrovsk and Kostiantynivka. At the same time, the decrease in activity in the Sumy and Kharkiv directions indicates the failure of Russian attempts to create a so-called buffer security zone in the north. Oleksandr Kovalenko, military columnist at information resistance think tank, calls for caution about the news of the scale of Russian troops redeployment. He confirms the reports about individual Russian units being redeployed closer to the Donbass front, but believes the global concentration of forces to be an exaggeration.